Democrat Governor Josh Shapiro, he says Kamala Harris is going to have to answer for silence on Biden's mental decline. Well, where were you during this whole thing? I think he said something in the clip about him speaking to someone about it, but he didn't speak to the American people about it. You were silent on it as well. So I don't know how you can call out Kamala Harris and her obvious silence on it when you were the same way. You didn't speak out on it. You didn't talk to the American people about Biden's decline. So don't try to play hero now, try to throw Kamala Harris under the bus. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to play the clip. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. There's a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from Slay News, and they report that Pennsylvania's Democrat Governor Josh Shapiro has declared that Kamala Harris is, quote, going to have to answer for remaining silent when then President Joe Biden's mental decline became apparent. Harris's forthcoming book, 107 Days, about her short-lived run as the Democrat presidential nominee, revealed how she stood by as a severely impaired Biden decided to run again despite his apparent issues. Shapiro, who was a top choice for Harris's 2024 running mate, appeared on Stephen A. Smith's Sirius XM show Straight Shooter on Thursday. Of course, Shapiro would never be a Democrat forerunner because of his because he's Jewish, of course, and we know that the Democrat base have a disdain for Jewish people. So good luck with that in 2028. But anyway, he was asked about it by hosts NBC News reported. The Democrat governor said that Harris should have come clean about her concerns rather than waiting until her tell-all book. In the book, Harris asked herself, was it grace or was it recklessness? It was definitely recklessness. Quote, he said, in retrospect, I think it was recklessness, she admitted. She said this. She admitted about her decision to stay quiet. The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. It should have been more than a personal decision. Again, so Kamala, why speak out against it now? You're trying to sell a book, right? That's the only reason why you're speaking on it now. You didn't have the kahunas, you didn't have the guts to talk about it while you were running, when everyone, or before you ran, when they just threw you in there or anything. Now you're speaking on it. The obvious, everyone already knows this. But let's play the clip and hear what Josh Shapiro has to say about this. Here we go.
I mean, look, I haven't read the former vice president's book, and she's going to have to answer to how she was in the room and yet never said anything publicly. I can tell you that I wasn't in the room, but when I was confronted with engagement with the former president, in looking at it simply from the perspective of how's he doing in Pennsylvania? Could he win Pennsylvania? Because I think, Stephen, you understand, if you can't win Pennsylvania, it's pretty darn hard to win the national election. And I was very vocal with him privately and extremely vocal with his staff about my concerns about his fitness to be able to run for another term. I was direct with them. I told them my concerns. I told them my worries. I told them what I was seeing in the polls. I think it seemed to me that maybe his staff wasn't counseling him with all the information that we knew on the ground here in Pennsylvania that, frankly, they should have shared with the president. I think that's a conversation between the former president and his staff. But I can tell you that I tried to speak to them candidly about it and to do so in a constructive manner. I believe in talking directly to the individuals, not running around and talking to the media. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I think in that moment, you've got to be direct, and I was.
Well, considering how it didn't do anything. You were direct about it. They didn't do anything. They still tried to run President Biden, he still ended up debating, and it wasn't until the debate then the Democrats actually started talking about it. So you're too late. You should have went public and forced his hand earlier, and maybe y'all would have had a shot. Y'all probably could have had a real primary. So you get no credit for going and talking to them because nothing happened. Now, I do agree with going to them and talking to them. Wow, what happened to the video? I do agree with going to them first before you go public and be like, hey, bringing it to their attention. But then when they continue on and still wheel out Biden, you should have stepped up and went public is what I believe should have happened here. But we all know the Democrats are cowards. They when it comes to their base, when it comes to protecting the elites as well, they're cowards. But let me see if there's anything left to this video. Let's see. Here we go. Sorry about the clip.
I mean, look, I haven't read the former vice president's book, and she's going to have to.
Slade News booted me out of the video. Sorry about that. Because Stephen A was asking a question here. Here we go.
Election next year in the state of Pennsylvania, but there's also a 2028 election on the national level, for the presidency of the United States. Where's the mind of Governor Josh Shapiro right now, considering the times that we're living in, what's needed, and what you believe in your heart you could do for this country if you were in such a position as president of the United States of America? Last question, where do you lie with all of that right now at this point in time?
I mean, first and foremost, and don't roll your eyes when I say this, because I need you to know just how deeply personal this is to me. I love what I do, and I am honored to sit behind this desk. Stephen, I'm looking up, and there's a portrait of William Penn, who had this job first. It is humbling to me to be the 48th governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I do not take that for granted. I also know you asked a different question, and I want to answer that, but I can't let that go. I do not want anyone to leave this question not realizing just how humbled and honored I am to do this work. I also love this country, and I really believe, for the many of the reasons as you and I were talking about at the beginning of this conversation, we are at an inflection point, and I am troubled by what I'm seeing in this country, and I'm concerned about what I'm seeing in my party. And I know that I have a voice that needs to be heard in that process. How that voice ultimately gets heard, how it manifests itself, what I ultimately do, we'll see. I don't think that's a decision that one can make sitting here right now. But I can tell you, I love this country, I love my party, and I want to be a part of making sure it is fixed, it is reformed, that we win elections again as a party, and we steer this country back in a common sense direction, and we move it in a way that can be uplifting for more and more people in the way in which I've tried to do here in Pennsylvania, bringing people together to get stuff done.
Okay, so he's obviously going to be running in 2028. He's trying to sugarcoat it, trying to be political about it. He's obviously going to be running in 2024, and he talked about bringing common sense to back to the Democrat Party. I think they're too far gone. It's no fixing the Democrat Party. Look at all these nut jobs that they got going around trying to take out people because of their opinions. It was just another guy that was arrested with a gun out here at one of the Charlie Kirk memorials and stuff like this. These people are nut jobs. There is no more reasoning when it comes to the Democrat Party. They are done with reasoning. It's all emotion, it's all anger, and it's all hate. But the Pennsylvania governor was angry that Harris kept mum while such a vital fact went unsaid until after the election, when it no longer mattered. And of course, that was obvious, obvious that happened. The governor said he loves America, but he wants to see it move in a more common sense direction than it is now. Shapiro sounds like an excellent choice for vice president, but Harris ultimately went with the very oddball and unlikable Minnesota governor, Tim Walz. And it's been said that Tim Walz is actually going to be running for governor of Minnesota for a third term. I guess that's possible for Minnesota. But Walz admitted to being a knucklehead during the vice presidential debate and was dogged by multiple scandals. According to Fox News, the choice came down to Harris' decision to go with her gut, which once again proved that her instincts were all wrong. The choices were Shapiro, Waltz, and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. I mean, Kelly or Shapiro, both of them would have been better choices than Waltz. Tampon Waltz is just this. Look at me. I'm pretending to be some masculine guy holding a gun. Like, that's ridiculous, man. People can smell the fake. They can tell the inauthenticity when it came to that. But ultimately, Shapiro was eliminated because he might outshine Harris, as noted in the book 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and the Democrats Lost America, by Wall Street Journal reporter Josh Dalzey, the New York Times reporter Tyler Pager, and the Washington Post Isaac Arnstoff. Wow. So I didn't know that. I thought it was because his Jewish heritage. I'm pretty sure he's Jewish. Let me double check. Let me double check this. I don't want to give out inaccurate information here. Let's ask good old AI. Is Josh Shapiro Jewish? Let's see. Yes. So I thought so. I thought I was right on that. That's one of the main reasons why they did not pick Josh Shapiro. It's not because they were worried about him outshining Kamala Harris. They needed that. They needed someone to speak up and speak out and be articulate, the exact opposite of what Kamala Harris was. But it's because he was Jewish, and they know the Democrats would not, the Democrat base would not go for a Jewish vice president. That's just, it is what it is. You can call it whatever you want. That's the base of the Democrat Party. But ultimately, Shapiro was eliminated because he might outshine. No, I went over that already. Fox News shared an excerpt of the book outlining the decision. When Harris interviewed Shapiro, she thought, quote, the two were not a perfect match as running mates. He came across as overly ambitious, pushing Harris to define what his role would be, the book claimed. He also conceded it would not be natural for him to serve as someone's number two, leaving Harris with a bad impression. Meanwhile, well, that part might be true. He might not want to be a number two in the first place. Who would want to be support for Kamala Harris? She's a train wreck. But meanwhile, Waltz had the differential attitude that Harris sought while also showing no interest in himself. Waltz reportedly flatly denied any interest in running for president. This was a mistake for a myriad of reasons, but especially because Waltz was meant to appeal to the male voters. Harris and the rest who were around Biden knew that something was wrong with him, but let it slide for way too long. Even though he was terrible. Harris is finally owning up to the truth, but Shapiro is correct that her credibility has been tarnished over this, and it likely doomed her political career. Yeah, it's over for her. I don't see her being in any type of office anywhere. I wouldn't hire her to run a lemonade stand, man. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.